My name's Mike Koenig. I'll be your trail guide for today. When you look at this picture that's on your screen, just imagine me with a mustache. So that picture's gotten a little bit old. We'll be talking today about processes, kind of when to use them, what they can be used for, how to use them, how to trigger them. We're not going to go much in depth in terms of actually the nuts and bolts of setting them up, but we'll take a quick peek at that as well. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So processes are really a matter of setting up the activities that need to go into a workflow and then linking them together in the right order, assigned to the right people, and at the right times in order to complete a process. So this might be used for things like follow-up. So if I've got a new customer, there may be an onboarding process that I use. It can be used for workflow. So if I, for example, had a tax practice, there might be steps that I can automate in terms of processing tax returns. Might also be used for any number of other things. So really, the first thing to identify is what in your business can be put into automated processes. And it's really just anything where you've got the same steps that you want or that you always follow each time that particular project or activity is undertaken. So for example, there's certain steps that you would take for setting up a PC. Why to use a process would be to ensure that the process is standardized. So for example, again, getting back to a process of onboarding a client, you're going to be able to ensure that every client gets the best possible experience if you standardize that. So each and every client will have a follow-up call from the owner to welcome them to the company. Maybe you have a thank you for your business letter go out and things like that. Maybe there's an engagement letter that needs to be signed, so you can make sure that those things get done and the client is going to have the best experience every time. Processes will also ensure that nothing's missed. So many times you've got processes that might be 20, 30, 40, or even more steps, and if you're manually inputting those or if you're doing them just by memory, some things could get missed. So putting them in a standard process is going to ensure that everyone does what they need to do and that nothing is ever missed. And thirdly, and lastly, I should say, by putting these things in a process that you can trigger all of the steps automatically, you're going to ensure efficiency. So you can trigger that process and know that you've got all the steps without having to assign them individually every time. So it lets you set up, in essence, a project template or an activities template that you can reuse over and over and over again and ensure success. So I'm going to give you kind of a real-world example of a process, and this is really designed just to give you an idea of how these things might be used. So let's say that we've got a contact and we'll bring up Julia Child. And I just searched for Julia Child and here is her record. So in the CRM you can see all sorts of things about your prospects and clients, including their activities, relationships, notes, etc. We also have an area here for setting up projects, and for this example I'll use a project. So let's say that Julia is getting ready to do a big breakfast for her family. So she can set up this project, and we'll say it's a bacon and eggs breakfast. She loves bacon and eggs. And I'm sorry if this presentation makes anybody hungry. So now we've got a project planned. The next thing to do is to assign the activities. So with the processes, one can have a whole library of available processes, and when I go into the activities area of this project and click activate a process, I can see all of the various processes that I've got available. So this, this could be used in any number of ways. So in this case, we'll select the process called breakfast. And when I trigger that process, all of the activities are put on the project. They're assigned, so when George opens his to-do list, he'll see that he needs to go shopping. And when you set up these activities, one of the really powerful things is that you can set defaults for the activity. In this case, we see that the default description is see notes. And when we look at the notes, guess what? George has his shopping list right there in the notes. So he could print that, or if he's got the web mobile, he could be at the grocery store, pull open his activities list, see that he's got to do the breakfast shopping, and bingo, there's his shopping list right there. We can look at this process here so we can see that shopping, put the food away, heat the pan, crack the eggs, so we can see all of the activities in this process right up and until eating breakfast. So as we go through, George will do the shopping, mark that completed, and putting the food away gets completed, heating the pan, then we crack some eggs and stir into the bowl. We can make notes along the way if we need to. Each time that these activities are done, they're marked completed and we move on. And then we can see that we're putting the, oh, and this is interesting. Apparently Julia prefers baking her bacon, and I don't know. I've recently tried that, and it works out pretty well. It comes out nice and crispy, and you have much less of a mess to contend with. Frying the eggs. Again, I'm sorry if this is making anybody hungry. I know it's making me a little hungry. So we can fry the eggs, fry the sausage. Up, somebody's got to set the table. And again, we can put specific instructions in the notes as needed, or when somebody's completed, we can put the notes here, and they can put additional notes in. Making the toast, so everything gets done in order. All these things are assigned to the right people. We can serve the breakfast. Jessica's calling everybody to the table. And then enjoy your breakfast. When you set up these activities, one of the things that's available as well is to have a completed activity actually trigger another process. So there seems to be something missing from this breakfast process. We don't have anybody assigned to clean up afterwards. And principally that's because we're not sure how long it's going to take to eat the breakfast. We don't want to assign anybody to clean up until the breakfast is completed. That could be used in a business for things like if you've got to get a permit before you can start the work, or if you've got to get all the information before you can start preparing the return. So you could have it set so that once this final activity is completed, it's going to trigger another process. So you could have an activity in a tax practice that said, final information received, when that gets marked completed, guess what? The workflow continues by triggering the process to begin preparing the return in that example. In this case, we're done eating breakfast, so now we'll begin to clean up the kitchen. So that's just one example, and we can see that that new cleanup activity was then automatically assigned based on completing the breakfast. And we actually could have assigned more than one person, but in this case, my pretend user, Mary, is tasked with cleaning up after everyone. I guess she didn't participate in making the breakfast, perhaps. So I've been told that a lot of systems like this have process management built in, and I understand that in many of those systems one needs to be practically a programmer to use it. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of what goes into, in this case, results process management. So if I go to set up and maintain processes, here's a list of the making breakfast process. And we can see all of the activities, what order they're in. We could have them scheduled, days apart. In this case, that wasn't appropriate. And adding an activity to the list or to the process is simply a matter of clicking add here. And we can put in step number 12. And let's say that step number 12 is right here. So now we've got taking a nap as step number 12, and we've just added that to our process. And there's a lot that you can do, again, when you set up these processes, to tailor them to the specific workflow. And they can be really as granular as they need to be. And here's some other examples of processes. So an S-corp tax return, or so anything that you want to string together like that, you can add to a process. And creating a process is simply a matter of clicking to add a process, naming it, and beginning to add the activities in the order that you want to that process. So that's just a little bit about process management and how it can be used. Other ways that processes can get triggered, and there's a couple of them. We also already showed you how you can trigger processes as in a project. We could do the same thing just in the activities area. You can activate a process. Another way to activate processes is by assigning a contact type. So, for example, if I had a process that I always wanted to follow when we got a new prospect in the company, then I could actually create that process and have it automatically triggered whenever we have a new prospect. So this is the sort of capability that ensures that every lead, every prospect, and every new customer is followed up on in a way that's going to ensure the very best results. And that's what this is all about. It's about turning more leads into prospects, turning more prospects into clients and customers, and keeping those customers happy for the long term, so they not only remain customers, but hopefully they refer you additional prospects that become customers along the way. And we can see those activities that just got assigned. So I'll take a look now to see if there's any questions. If you do have any questions, go ahead and just enter them in the questions area. I'll wait another couple of minutes if there's any questions. Otherwise, let me go ahead and just put my contact information. There's a lot of other things about results. This was not intended to be a full results CRM demo or to answer much more than just the process management capabilities. There's a lot of other things that we'd be happy to show you. If you do have additional questions, or if you'd like to talk about the possibility of having our team work with you to set up processes, or to work with you to set up workflow that's appropriate for processes, we'd be happy to do so. Please don't hesitate to call me or reach out to anyone on our team. And I'll look forward to hearing from you. Again, thank you very much for attending today. Really appreciate your time, and look forward to hearing from you in the not too distant future. Thank you, and have a great day and a wonderful New Year and holiday season.